Hello, 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 all my lovely beasties. Welcome to the lair. How's everybody doing? Yes, I know I'm a few minutes early. Figured I would say hi to everybody for a few minutes before, and then we'll get into the topic of the night and cover some housekeeping and what the next week or so is going to look like on the channel. So, see Alan. Hello, hello, my darling. You thought I might have been also watching the Robert Primo Jr. trial. See, Alan, I will have to look into that. If you want to send something to me in my email, I'll take a look at it. Hey, Raven, how are you? Croc, Papa, hope you had a good day. I know you had a long one with your meeting and stuff. Hey, Parson. Hey, Tim, how are you doing? Tim, you're firefighter or firefighter EMS? I remember you're one of them. Help me out. Help a girl out here. Which one is it? I can't remember today. Sorry, long day. Hey, Tex, how was the gym? Hey, Nigel, how are you? Yeah, Papa. So that's actually why I'm even covering it right after Mike, and I'm actually going to play some of Mike's video. Um, Not long after Mike got finished streaming it, I got a bunch of messages from people with questions, so I figured I would clear them up. Hey, Joe Bailey, how are you? Um, and Papa, the reality is, I mean, the how in this case doesn't matter quite as much, but I had a lot of questions um, from people, and I went back and watched Mike's stream, and I see where the questions were, so I figured I would just cover them. Joe Bailey, I am glad you were doing outstanding. Have you recovered from your birthday? You've had a week. Have we recovered from the birthday? Let's see. So, did I catch everybody? I don't see a Thomas. Uh, I'm glad you are doing wonderful, Tim. Tim, are you a firefighter or EMT? I think I remember you talking about something, and I can't remember now. Because right now, I'm lucky I know my own name. Hello, Left Turn. How are you? How are you? How are you? So, I'll give it a few minutes since I started a few minutes early. Used to be a firefighter EMT. Hey, Tim, if you want to jump on with me either tonight or when I talk about what's going on for the next week on the channel, if you want to join in, you're more than welcome. I will gladly send you a link and you can come up here on the stream if you would like. So, let me make sure I say hi to everybody. Papa, I'm sure you're tired. You doing good though? Did it all get squared? Tim, it doesn't matter if you're medically retired. You can still put your 2 cents in on the silliness. Still put your 2 cents in. Medical retirement means nothing. The only time I'm ever on a rig now is either A, if I'm teaching EVOC or EVDT or whatever we changed the name of it to this week. Occasionally teaching EMT or paramedic class because someone is going to miss a day. When's again there? Oh, or if I have a TAC med case that they need, and I'm free. Those are the only times. No, I'm good. I'm good with a big kid job and not being on the truck every day, because that was a lot. Yeah. Mm-mm. Okay, Papa. Let me know. I can help you play phone tag in and amongst things if you need help. And I know the kids were asking about you. So this weekend or tomorrow night, I'll make sure you can talk to the kids. Your littles here were looking for you. So, Okay. Well, 8:33. Okay. Well, I'll give it 2 more minutes, everybody. We'll give it 2 more minutes, and I'm going to cover the Chicago train crash. Um, Before I cover that, we can cover a little bit of housekeeping. I'll cover the housekeeping again at the end for people that come in late. But um, the Elijah McClain case, the African American male who was involved in an interaction with police, was given ketamine. There was a whole kerfluffle, and then he passed away. There have been several trials already. We had a trial. There were some. They ended up charging the police, fire, and EMS. Last week was the trial where they charged 2 of the officers, and that was settled. Tomorrow starts jury selection on the trial of the 2 paramedics. And I'm going to cover the case because when you watch it, and when I went back and looked at the case with the police officers, to a large degree, the police officers are attempting to pin this on the paramedic. And some of the information in the complaint and that I've seen doesn't line up. Oh, Papa, when did you get to see my piece on Dr. Rayner's channel? I did that a while ago. But thank you. Thank you. I love Chris. Chris is awesome. I've worked with him on a couple things now. He's a great guy. But they're trying to pin this, like I said, on the paramedics. Now, there's a few problems with that, and there's also a lot of misinformation going around involving the medications, protocols, what was done, what was not done, if people are responsible, and I've seen a lot of demonizing of ketamine, which is the drug they were given, and what I've seen from the medical examiner that's come out, I kind of take issue with some of the things and how it's being spun. So we're going to go over the trial of the 2 medics. My hope is tomorrow starts jury selection. It shouldn't take long, but we'll stream that. And if they're not streaming interesting things during jury selection, we will talk about the actual medications that they're trying to blame. We will talk about their state protocol. Hey, EE Caroline. We'll talk about the state protocol that they were operating under. And then we will talk about what the kind of national standard on it is and if they went awry. Just today, it was the Trank one. You're looking for Crocodile that's showing up here now. Papa, actually, if I had to put my money on it, it's actually Trank that's showing up there. Crocodile hasn't really been seen much in the US in years. And what people are, and I'm guessing this is what's happening down there where you are, a lot of people are misperceiving Trank as Crocodile because they haven't seen Trank. Because actual Crocodile literally there's a handful of cases. That's about it. Hey, Bandit. Joe Bailey, is the case going to be on Court TV tomorrow? I don't know if it's going to be on Court TV. It is being broadcast by the Colorado courts, and I do have the court feed for tomorrow. So I will be gavel to gavel covering the trial. So yeah, but I have the court feed. So it might be on Court TV, who knows? But yeah, it is being broadcast, and I do have a feed. So, any other quickie questions? We're going to cover that. That should be interesting. We are also, probably not this week, if I'm doing that trial, it looks like there's going to be a refiling of charges in the Alec Baldwin incident. And we'll talk about why and how revolvers don't just magically go off, and where some of the issues and the recharging, what that might look like. I'm going to cover that one too. And then if C. Allen gets me information, or depending on what I go look and find out from what C. Allen was talking about, I may be able to cover that one too. So, there's also some other firearms laws and things I need to cover, and firearms updates, and I'll try to get to them. But this Elijah McClain thing is going to be really interesting because it's kind of a departure from how they treated the Derek Chauvin and some of the other. So we will cover all of that. But like I said, I'm going to cover the McClain thing. So what we're going to do today, though, first is we are going to cover this Chicago train crash. And I didn't know what was going on. I was doing 9 million things. And then I started getting messages from people, since I do share a little bit of a viewership with Law Talk with Mike. And Mike had just streamed about the accident. And they had some questions. And I went back and I watched, and even Mike said during it, he kind of had some questions. He wasn't sure what was going on. He had to look into some things, and he wasn't sure why they were doing what they were doing. And the reporter tries to explain it, and he does a really crappy job. So I figured we'll pull up Mike's stream, and everybody go, if you're not here, I'm sure you all follow Law Talk with Mike, but go say it a Law Talk with Mike. I'm going to pull it up and we'll cover that. And then we're going to cover what is actually going on versus what people perceive is going on. And then we will talk about it. Caroline, I'm going to start that. I will address that one after I finish this one. I'll address what you put up there. Okay. So what we're going to do first is we're going to grab Mike's video first. Okay. So I'm going to hit play, and then I will try not to pause it too much, but we're going to move myself over. Let me move you guys over a tiny bit so I can try to see things. And then we are going to, we'll talk about the things here and, pop questions in the chat as you have them. Okay, so let's go. And like I said, everyone go subscribe to Law Talk with Mike. He's funny. He's a cool dude.
Hello, it's Attorney Monroeville coming to you from Chicago. As usual, this one's different than usual. It was sent to me by Yesenia, who noticed this, because this is just weird. And I don't know, it's local, but there's a train crash in Chicago today. The CTA, this is crazy. I don't know how that can happen. I'm sure, well, yard.
There we go. Move that up a little bit.
Of them, 3 in each side in tandem. They take the gurney up, they go up around, and then go to the staging area where all the ambulances are at 7500 North on Clark. Want to give you some updated information on the travel that's been put out by the Evanston Fire Department.
Looks like a lot of injuries.
So that yellow line is shut down, they're saying, between Howard and Thorndale at this time. So the CTA yellow line train and power, there may be some limitations on the red and purple line as well. Purple line and yellow line, there may be some limitations there. There's also a derailment that's been done here. So again, it's going to take a long time.
Okay, so it sounds like it's at Howard, which is
Okay. So obviously I do not know the particular rail line, so we'll let Mike comment on that. But this is a pretty typical response so far. So what you're seeing and where you're seeing, when Caroline, this happened earlier today in Chicago. Earlier today. So what you're seeing right now is pretty typical. So we'll let Mike finish talking about where it is, because I don't know.
the end of the red line, and then you take the purple line up into Evanston. So at that point, it's kind of it's north of the city, but it's kind of a hub From there, you can go north into Evanston, the Purple Line, and you can go out west, the Yellow Line. So it's not this. It's the north side. It's a secondary hub of the CTA system.
Before any of these trains are moving through the area. What we're looking at now is live at 7500 North on Clark Street, EMS Plant 3. We've got at least 15 ambulances, but there's been dispatched over 30 people. So when you see those tarps that are out there, this is what's called a triage from the Chicago Fire Department.
Wow.
And I went.
No. The tarps are a staging area. They are color-coded because of triage, but it actually has nothing to do with the fire department, and I will explain why in a minute. But what you are seeing is what is referred to as an MCI, or a mass casualty incident. At all mass casualty incidents, we operate under something called NIMS, which is the National Incident Management System, and it came about after Katrina. So, hello there, I ruined it. How are you?
Through the codes before. You've got the yellow tarp, you've got the red tarp, and you'll eventually see maybe not a green tarp. So green injuries are walking wounded, yellow are non-life-threatening injuries, red are serious to critical injuries. When you see the tarp here, this is a triage center. What a triage means, that they're working on the patients right there in the staging area before they can even bring them to the ambulances. Again, we're in a situation. I know St. Francis Hospital is close here. We don't have a rundown yet of where all the patients are going and if that hospital emergency room can get overrun very, very quickly. But you see the staging area here. We have seen over 50 pieces of Chicago Fire Department equipment. They keep coming in, and we've seen many, again, that have left already. An initial dispatch of over 32 injuries.
I'm trying to figure out if that train is there to like pull.
Okay. So, Hayne is no enemy, Hickrock. Firstly, that's not how triage and NIMS and things work. It's not. And we're going to go over it, and we're going to go over why. But this is a huge, huge pet peeve of mine when news reporters or people are like, this is what you're saying. No, it's not. No. Just no, but okay. I have issues with misinformation and when people miseducate, right? And we'll go through the different criteria. But first things first, this is not an unusual scene. This is going just how it should. And it might look like chaos to some people, but there's no chaos going on. And his representation of what is going on, not like the other guys, is very off about how smart triage works. So let's watch a little bit more, and then we'll cover some of it, and then we'll watch the second part that Mike has, and I'll answer any other questions.
Well, it doesn't. I don't get it. But I mean, this, there's a lot of kind of stuff. Control and just kept going at.
On the extreme of those injuries, initially heard 2 people in critical condition. When we first arrived in Sky 5, we saw somebody down on the tracks between where the impact of the crash was, between the CTA yellow line and that piece of yellow snow removal equipment. That person seems seriously injured. A lot of passengers off the train have been removed. We've seen a lot of walking wounded, and we've seen a lot of what we're seeing right now where the fire department are taking people out, working on them right next to.
I'm wondering if that's what it is. We're switching climate here. We're not there yet. We don't have a bunch of snow, but they might be getting out the snow removal equipment, and then that.
Not that I don't want to hear what Mike has to say about it.
But 6 of them in unison around and go up that very steep hill. Think about how heavy their equipment is. Think about how heavy that gurney is. They're going up that steep hill. You can see people kind of in front of them, maybe somebody behind that's spotting everybody in case something goes wrong. They go around the hill, taking the patients either to the triage center that we just showed you or the staging area.
Okay. A, they're going to staging, not a triage center. This isn't a hospital. You're not going out to triage, which is in between the waiting room. 2, think about how heavy the gurney is. Okay, guys, see, we have Bubba right here. Damn it, Navy Techs, I've been around you too long. I called someone Bubba. See my man right here, holding this thing with one hand. Okay, that's not a gurney. It's called a skid basket. It's not heavy. My 5-year-old can carry it. 6-year-old. It's not heavy at all. Tim can attest. Um, it's not heavy. A sked basket is literally a plastic shell, kind of akin to like a little kid's snow sled, and it's got a metal ring around it generally, or sometimes certain kinds of like fiberglass and plastic, and it gives you handles so that everybody can carry it. Okay, it's not heavy. A stretcher itself, if you're looking at like a Furno power stretcher, probably 300 pounds. The cheap Furno non-power ones, about 100 pounds, 125 depending on the model. So no, not a gurney, not a stretcher. They're Stokes baskets. EE Caroline, that one's a plastic version of Stokes. They're holding a metal Stokes. I've seen several. It just depends on what unit they grabbed it off of. Okay. Problem number 2. How heavy the fireman's gear is. It doesn't really weigh much more than a snowsuit. The helmet's a little bit of a pain, a couple pounds. But they don't have air packs on at all. It's not that heavy. My turnout gear isn't much heavier than some snowsuits. In fact, my turnout gear weighs about as much as my hockey goaltending gear. It's not heavy. If you cannot walk up and down a hill in turnout gear and a helmet, no. Time to turn it in. But no, they're not. He's making it sound like super heavy gear. If they were packed up with air packs, I could understand it. But Papa asks, do they ever use carry slings sort of like you use with your Hoyer lift? Yeah, Cool Clearwater. Yeah, Papa, they do. We have these nifty blue tarps that are just like straight tarps, and they look like roofing tarps almost, and they have handles around the edges. There's also something called a Reeves stretcher, and it is generally bright orange, and it has very thin slats of plywood in it so that you don't sink. If you're carrying a patient, you can kind of burrito them, and there's a whole bunch of handles, but this way their butt doesn't sink. It keeps them flat. And this way, if you have an injury or an airway issue. But, all 3 are used for rapid removals. It's a couple pounds. It's not heavy. News Now NME, that gear, it heavy. Yeah, no, it's not that heavy. I mean, I go to the gym. Well, I used to go to the gym and, run on a treadmill in turnouts or on a Stairmaster. Like I said, it's not any heavier than my hockey gear. Yeah. 8 pounds. News Now NME. Yes, I have tried it on. I'm a national fire instructor, and I'm a national paramedic instructor. And I spent 16 years as a specialty firefighter paramedic. So yes, I have. I can also drive a fire truck and a rescue truck, and I can drive a tiller. So yes, I have tried it on. My turnout gear is not heavy. Really not that heavy. Not much more than goalie gear. The heaviest thing on my turnouts are the ladder belt.
Triage center that we just showed you, or the staging area where more than 30 pieces of Chicago Fire Department equipment and ambulances are set up at this time.
Wow. Well, that's what we got.
We literally just got here seconds ago, and we want to show you what this looks like from the ground. You talked about what it looked like from above. You have a different picture than we do, but I want to get out of the way so you can see just this massive emergency personnel response here. Dozens of ambulances lined up along the street here on Clark, right near the rail yard where this all happened. Now, forgive me if injured, 2 of them critically.
Okay, so it collided with equipment. We've got at least a dozen injured. I saw a report that was higher than that.
Okay.
2 critically. You can imagine. Oh, I mean.
So we're going to stop it on here. These are plastic backboards. Let's see. We have people with the vests, but they're not wearing the appropriate vests. About all you can see on this one. But that's all we kind of really need to see, right? So. Okay. 45 pounds. Nope, not heavy. News enemy. My gear doesn't weigh 45 pounds unless I add my ladder belt and some of the other stuff, for one. For 2, I don't need to Google it. Neither does Tim. Tim was a firefighter EMT. And yawn. Okay, cool. The suits are not that heavy, like Croc said. It's the SCBA that's a bitch. If you think it's heavy, then might I suggest you go to the gym. Because I can tell you every year at September 11th. Yeah, no, news now, enemy. I didn't have cheap gear at all. I still have my gear. It's not cheap. But okay. They use the same turnout gear I have. They have the same brand of turnout gear I do. Okay. So again, it's not that heavy. Every September 11th, I do the Climb for Air, where we all do all of the flights. Laugh. Okay, well, that's cool, but I'm going to suggest you go to the gym, buddy, okay? Great. Have a great day. Unless you've done my job for 16 years, I really don't want to hear it. So, back to what I was saying. It looks a little crazy, right? But it's not. So first things first. Bye news now, Emily. I don't want to fight either. I just know what I wear and I know what I have for 16 years. Don't tell me I'm wrong. Bye. Peace out. So now what we're going to look at is we are going to look at the triage. Okay. So what they're using is this. It is called smart triage, right? So we have tarps when we triage. Here's the thing. You're going to immediately, before we go to this algorithm, we're going to talk about the colors. You are going to fall into a triage category. Now, I'm going to say this can be a little bit hard for some people to kind of get their mind around and wrap their heads around. But if you have a question about it, ask, but hear me out on this. So if somebody is tagged green, now what we use is something called smart triage. It is a standardized thing. Okay. So if you're green tag, minor injuries, walking wounded, you're fine. Yellow would mean you're delayed, transport's delayed. They could have serious or life-threatening injuries, but it is not imminent. It is generally that, like, it could become life-threatening, or even if it is, they're not going to die tomorrow, though. Like in the next hour, they're going to die, in a day. Immediate is red, which means you need to act within an hour for them to survive. So really major injuries, internal bleeding, head injuries, those kind of things. Now, here's the problem. The black tag. That is death is expected. I will tell you right now, and this is where people have a problem. If somebody is not breathing, we will try to give a couple rescue breaths. If that does not, or clearing their airway does not restore it, you get a black tag. It does not matter if your heart is still beating. We don't do CPR at mass casualties. That is not to say we're going to let you suffer. We should either be giving some pain meds or some palliative care, depending on the situation. Or once we have cleared out everybody else, we go back to the black tag and reassess. Initially, we're not going to, and I hate this way, waste time trying to do CPR or intubate or any of those things on somebody when I have 45 other patients. So, as hard as it is, you will see people that you think we should be trying to save that are black tag that we're not doing anything. So here is when you do the adult triage, right? Are they able to walk? Yes. If you can get up and walk, it doesn't matter. You're green, walking wounded, bye. Spontaneous breathing. No, if they're not breathing, like I said, we will reposition your airway. Make sure it's not a mechanical thing. If they're not breathing, then you're black tag. If they're breathing, when you reposition them, they're a red tag immediate. Respiratory rate, greater than 30, which means real shallow breathing, then they're going to go to immediate. If they're under 30, okay, we're going to check for signs of perfusion, capillary refill, radial pulses, things like that. You can get an immediate. Now we're going to check mental status because head injuries. So if they look like they have a head injury, then they're going to go to the immediate. If they can obey your commands, they're going to yellow, which is serious, but they can't walk themselves, right? So what you're seeing up there, and you see where it says secondary triage. So I'll leave that up. What we do is, they're going, we'll cover the NIMS in a minute. You have the incident area, which is your hot zone. You have the warm zone, which is where that initial triage is. Erica, we are looking at the train derailment in Chicago, and I'm explaining the triage situation in the tarps because Law Talk with Mike did it, and some people sent me questions about what they were seeing, and people were kind of confused. So we're covering the triaging and how a mass casualty incident goes. So you have the warm zone, which is where those tarps are. And then you have the cold zone, which is where all those ambulances are. We position equipment that if you're the first in, you're going to be like the last one out generally because people will block it in. But what they do is they position equipment, and generally the medics or EMTs, depending on the situation, will either stay there, they'll come to that staging area, take the patients to the truck, and leave. We provide very little, if anything, at those tarps. That is, you take the person to the tarp. They might get a pressure dressing. They might get a tourniquet. They might get a splint, but then they're going from there. And all other care is going to get, like all the other care is going to get handled like in the ambulance. We're not providing medical care at those tarps other than some like, oh, I need to put a tourniquet on. Oh, let me cover this. Very little is getting done there. That's not the purpose of it. The purpose is to divide people, make sure you have the right resources, and get people out. Okay? So, they'll go to a secondary triage if they're walking wounded, and the secondary triage is going to decide where they go and how. Now we're going to close this for a minute. In very large mass casualty incidents, you may be having a medical problem, but you generally will not be, if it's like you're green walking wounded, you're probably not going to the hospital in an ambulance. We will take people to the hospital in a bus. Like they will take whatever. They'll put 15 people in a passenger bus or a PAT bus or transit, whatever, and they will take them that way. So we deal with it based off of resources. Okay. So let me pull up the all-important NIMS picture. And here we go. get this up here. So this is the NIMS system, the National Incident Command System. Like I said, this came out after Katrina and with how things were handled. All fire, EMS, police, we all operate under the National Incident NIMS, the National Incident Management System, and it has a standardized ICS, which is the Incident Command System. And that's so we have continuity, right? If you need a ton of resources and I show up, but I'm not part of your department, I might not know how you do things. And then it's not good for anybody. And you waste resources or you're not sure what resources you need. But we've since standardized it and now we know. So you have the incident command, which is what's going on, right? You have a public information officer. All the public information officer does is talk to the news. That is it. You have a safety officer. The safety officer is not there for the people that were injured. The safety officer is there for the responding people. And then you have the liaison officer. The liaison officer is the person that is the go-between, right? So here, when you see finance, admin, logistics, planning, operations, most of these aren't going to be needed in something like this train derailment, where it's a very short-term thing. Finance, admin, you need it after like Katrina, hurricane, tornado, weather disaster, mass trauma, massive, like terrorist issue, not single things, because we're not really worried about the finances and the timing for a small situation like this, right? The logistics section, you may need, depending on how long it goes on. And under the logistics, you have like the service and support, communications, food. If they're going to be there working a situation for 18 hours, you need food, you need water. The medical group is for the responders, not for the people, because depending on what it is, we have to have our vitals checked to make sure that we don't make more patients. So that's all under there. Planning section, that is ahead of time. You plan these things ahead of time, and that's generally where you have the planning, and then later in the aftermath of planning units. But what you have are these operations sections, which are the branches, divisions, strike teams, single resources. So what's going to happen is you show up in incident command. It depends on the kind of event to decide who your incident commander is. I've been the incident commander for a few things. So what we do is, we talk to the operations. So the operations section says, hey, we have X amount of injured people. We need all these ambulances, right? They go to liaison officer. The liaison officer will talk to the logistics people and will say, hey, 30 ambulances, where are we getting them? Okay, this is the run card, and here's where we get our units from. Cool, that gets called in. Hey, we need 5 helicopters. You go to the liaison will go to logistics. Hey, where are we getting the helos from? And then they call them in. It is not the operations problem we don't worry about where it comes from. That's someone else, and we just tell them what we need and it's supposed to appear, kind of thing. So what happens is you have your people that are going into a hot zone, which is all those firemen you saw down there carrying things. You may have 1 or 2 firefighter paramedics down there if there's, some stuff needs to be done or if we're trying to free people. But, we may have extrication issues where we have to bring people in to cut people out of things or to lift them out or whatever. And that's going to be on who your rescue unit is. And then they're bringing them up to the warm zone, which are those tarps. When they get to the tarps, they're going to say, okay, this person looks like they're a yellow. Someone's going to the yellow type. They're going to assess them real quickly, and they're either going to say, yes, they're yellow, or no, they're red, or no, they're green, and ship them out to where they need to go. When I say it's a quick assessment, we're not treating people there. You kind of look at it and you're like, yeah, okay. Someone comes to the red, okay, well, I might need to intubate them, put a tourniquet on something. You're going to do something there that's quick. And then you'll send them off and they will go right to an ambulance, and the ambulance will leave and go when they're supposed to. Now, they're talking about overwhelming a hospital. The thing is, this planning section, the planning section is done ahead of time. We know how many people the trauma center can hold. We know how many people this hospital can hold. And in that planning for a mass casualty, what you do is you know how to send people where they need to go to not overwhelm the resource. And when you get to let's say you get to a trauma center, you will notice they will generally have a big white tent set up outside because they have their own triage and mass casualty system. So everybody will, you'll come up, you'll bring them the patient, they'll decide where they want them to go, and they will go and they will direct. They have their own mass casualty incident, structure thing worked out. But we do know ahead of time when we do these tabletop drills and tabletop planning, hey, this hospital could take this many critical, this many whatever, and what you do is you don't send everybody to one hospital. So that's why I said, you might have a bus. If you have a bunch of walking wounded that are fairly stable, they may put them on a bus and take them to a hospital, 10 miles away compared to one that's 5 miles or 2 miles. Because they have the time that you can send them there and not overwhelm the closer facilities or the, higher level trauma units with patients. And that's what you have to keep in mind, right? So let me close that. Let's see. Okay. Hold on. Hey, Richard. Hey, Erica. Hold on. So let me go back and we'll see what I missed. Caroline, the minute you move resource assets, it's a logistics issue. Where things are is part of logistics. Caroline, yeah, it is a logistics thing, but it's not something that the operational people are generally worried about. And when I say that you don't really use them in a little incident like this, you're using generally something logistics has pre-planned. Logistics will tell you, this unit has this, and this, and then we move it, and then they'll worry about talking to them. But in the immediate, the logistics unit has generally already figured out what resources are where and how many resources we can get from there. So you might need to call them in a couple hours in, but if it's, just this, and once you get that initial group out with that initial logistical, we know what our resources are, you might not have to bring them in. And that's why I'm saying we don't need them. You need logistics on site for a lot longer when you're talking, a day or 2 days worth of dealing with things and figuring out where your resources are, where they've moved to, and what you can do. Navy techs, everybody calls them EAPs, the Emergency Action Plan, and OSHA mandates that everybody have them. If you're a company, everyone has to have them. All fire departments have to have emergency access plans. We do mass casualty planning. Everybody, like Pennsylvania, has called PEMA, which is the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Association, and it's like the state people. They run, drills. We run all this stuff all the time. The best outcome comes from everything else being really smooth, and you have much less casualties if you can very quickly go through things and everything's streamlined and you know what you're doing. So what you saw there was a red and a yellow tarp. Now they should have had another tarp, which would be the black tarp. Even if you're not going to use it, you are supposed to put the tarps out. What I didn't see in the picture, and I'm not saying they didn't do it, you just couldn't see it from there, is where your operations, your command post is, and the tags. So like I said, we all use something called the smart triage. They are paper tags, and we rip the bottoms off and hand them to the person. So like I might rip the yellow tag off and give it to you, and you go, and it has a number, and we have at the top of the tag, and we take notes or write whatever on it, and that's how. And we have what looks like those like over the door clear plastic shoe holder kind of things. That's how you're deciding where people go. Okay, these people from yellow, like I sent them to this hospital, and you're putting them under there, and so that's how you know who you've sent where and how many people. The other thing is we cannot always account for like people that go by themselves, overwhelming things, but we try to start. But yes, you will see is hanging around the wrist. Generally, you have to have a triage tag because that's how we keep track of you. Papa, don't forget the closest coffee provider. Papa, I can tell you one of the first things I do on a mass casualty is we call for the Red Cross or Salvation Army or whoever's bringing the truck with the coffee for us and the snacks and the water. Tim, where you are, we had 4 hospitals in 40 miles. Red went to the closest. Yellow might go to the second closest. Yeah. So Tim, where I am, I mean, locally to me, I have a level 2 trauma center, and then I have a community hospital. The community hospital is a PCI or percutaneous cardiac intervention. So they can do a cardiac cath, but that's about it. They can't open a chest. Trauma center can open the chest. And then you're talking about going into the city. And so that's where we start to, I'm not going to send the major traumas to the community hospital. Might be stroke and heart certified, but it's not trauma. But I might be sending you broken arms and little things there. And everything else is going to the, to the big trauma center or being flown to a trauma center. But that's what we do. You have to know your resources. Yeah. And then farther away, the green goes generally to the furthest. Now here we're lucky, like in the Pittsburgh area, I can tell you there's like 15 hospitals in downtown Pittsburgh, Oakland. They're all right there. But we generally, it's not just even furthest away for us. And in a lot of ones I've run, the green will generally go to the community hospitals or the ones that have the least amount of surgical capability or the ones that are not prepared to handle large volumes of serious patients. The trauma center obviously is. And like I said, when you get onto property for the trauma center, we have, hey, Mayor, we have tents up. And we, triage there again and send them out. So hopefully that explains all the questions, because I got lots of questions from people being like, well, they're saying this person's critical or not critical. We don't say you're critical or not critical. You're a color. You're a Teletubby. Take your pick. And that's where you're going. We are not, in fact, providing much care in the warm zone other than a quick tourniquet or a quick this or a quick that kind of thing. Yes, is it tiring and a pain in the butt to have to walk down an incline and carry a whole bunch of people up? Yeah. But if you can't do it, it means you need to go to the gym. If you think your turnout gear with no air pack is supremely heavy, then you really need to go to the gym. Like I said, I do the stair climb, for the 9/11 memorial every year in full turnout gear with an air pack on. The air pack's what's heavy, not the actual turnout gear. The actual turnout gear is annoying, but it's not much heavier than like my hockey gear. My helmet's annoying. My helmet's probably the heaviest part of it. Or if I wear something called a ladder belt, it has let's see, do I have a picture with the ladder belt? Let's see. Loki has a picture. Let's see. You can tell a weak emergency service person because they are nude. Can't handle the turnout gear? Wait, what? You can tell a weak emergency service because they are nude. They can't handle the turnout gear. Caroline, I'm not sure what you're asking. Pull up a picture of me with my gear just so you can see what I'm talking about real quick. You're going to have to clarify. Let's see, where's a picture of Loki's turnout gear? Loki does not like her turnout gear stuff. Generally. Generally, Loki is not seen in turnout gear much. Because I didn't have to anymore. I did my time in my turnouts. I've also done my time in other people's turnout gear, which is a whole interesting other situation. There's a picture of my turnout gear. Ah. Sorry, guys. Like I said, I don't generally. Here we go. Okay. So, hey, Patty. Hold on one second. This is me in turnout gear. It's pants. That's it. Pants, suspenders. Not too much. The boots are the heavy thing. When I say I have a ladder belt, in some of my gears you'll see that right here I have something that's bright yellow and a giant carabiner right here, and that is to lock in and out of onto a ladder. It's called a ladder belt, but it's really not all that heavy. And Caroline, when I say I can tell the weak emergency service because they're nude, can't handle the turnout gear, I'm saying it because somebody was in here commenting that I didn't know that turnout gear was heavy, and it's really, really heavy. And have I ever worn it because they've tried it on before? So, like I said, if your turnout gear is that heavy, to you need to go to the gym because you're going to be in turnout gear a lot. Richard, they are not fireproof. Nothing, in fact, is fireproof. Nothing is fireproof. We do, however, have fire-resistant stuff, but nothing is fireproof. You can get burned easily. It is hot. It's no fun. It's a giant pain. Let's see. Trying to see if I have a picture where you can. Not on here. I don't. You can melt it. I've melted it. It's actually not. So the hood we wear is Nomex. The hood we wear is Nomex, and that goes under the helmet and under your and around your mask. Yeah, there's Nomex in the fire gear, but you can. And I have, burned my. Nothing is fireproof, Richard. The silver one you're referring to is ARF, which is aircraft firefighting gear. It goes to a higher temperature, but there's nothing that's actually fireproof. I've melted my helmet. I've singed and burned fire gear. I've burned holes in my fire gear on calls. It takes a little bit to do, but you can do it. You love finding out they need to keep spraying after splash out of the burning jet full. Yeah, Caroline, that would be very true. So yes, you have Nomex in the firefighting gear, but you can melt it and burn it. I know I have this picture where. Let me see if I have it on my Instagram. Oh, you know what? I do know where I have it. Hold on one second. Yeah, it is. The silver is heat reflective, but again, nothing is, in fact, fire proof. It is resistant to a point and to a degree. The difference on it is the difference is just what temperature and how long it rates at that temperature for. It's all a giant pain in the ass. And the other thing that I tell people all the time, here we go. Let me grab this picture for you guys. The thing that we always tell people is it doesn't keep you cool, right? It's not going to keep you cool. So what we do with it, however, let me send it to myself. You can see the picture, one of the pictures. You have to worry about. Hold on one second, guys. Let me grab this picture. There we go. You have to worry about metal and things underneath it. So in my case, I once wore a shirt that had like a metal O-ring on it, not thinking, and then I went on a call. And there we go. Let's get this up for you. Okay. So, and then I went on a call and burned myself. Because it heats up through it. So, like I said, things may in fact be fire resistant or retardant. They are not fireproof. Here is my fire helmet. Well, yeah, as you can see, you can melt them. Croc, no, you don't pay for replacements. It's insured through the fire department. The fire departments provide you with your gear, and then they have to replace it when it's damaged, and it's in budgets, and we don't. The only time I have to pay to replace things is like not this helmet, but I had a different helmet which was not issued by the department. It was one that I bought, and when that got damaged, I had to replace it because it wasn't department issue. But we have to replace all department issue gear. Tim says the departments don't have races in full gear, including SCBAs. Yeah, Tim, there was a few years I competed in the firefighter combat challenges, which, they're literally CrossFit and fire gear almost, and you have to, do firefighting things. And I competed in the challenges, and you got to run and drag things and climb things and all of that. And in those, you have to do them with your SCBA. When I do the Fight for Air, the 9/11 one, we all do it with a pack, which is your SCBA, and that's heavy. Richard AT, oh damn, Papa, rough day at the office. Yeah, it was a rough day at the office right here. It was an apartment fire. You can actually see the apartment building right here. And as you can see, I melted and this is a leather helmet, just so you know. I melted leather and then it's treated. I melted it. My tetrahedrons, they were gone. You can see how much damage I did to my helmet, which was, oops. Did my hair burn? Yeah. So Papa, you wear a Nomex hood. Kind of looks like a balaclava. You wear a Nomex hood, opening around the face with some elastic kind of stuff, and then you have your face mask. And all your hair has to be under your hood. Any reason the gear has to be yellow? My gear's not yellow. The picture I put up of my gear wasn't yellow. It's brown. It's tan. I wear tan gear. Some places, some fire companies, if you're firefighter, paramedic, like the paramedics will have turnout gear in some places. Usually that's navy. Some do have yellow, but usually a lot of places the yellow gear is for juniors. But your gear can sometimes tell people your role. But the majority of some places, a lot of cities use black fire gear now because it looks better. If you saw my tan gear and how dirty and gross it was, they look dirty and gross. Richard, the fire department here in LA uses yellow. That's just their decision. It's preference. I mean, like I said, I've had turnout gear that's black, navy, tan. It comes in every color. It's a department decision, and in certain areas, it tells you your position, much like helmet color. But yeah, the Nomex hood protects your hair. Sure, not at all. They just like it. Some departments different because that way you can tell their department. Because I can tell you, we strip out of our gear on scenes a lot. Because what happens is, the rule is, generally in most places, is if you have your air pack, your bottle, when you burn a bottle, which means you go through, hey Raven, when you go through the entire bottle, like if you're going interior into a fire, when you come out, they're going to make you go to what they call rehab, which is where you have to go over to there's a tent, like there's a tarp, you have to go over, you have to take your air pack off, you have to take your jacket off, you have to sit down, then the paramedic or EMT has to take your blood pressure, check your heart rate, and make sure that you're medically okay to grab another bottle and go back into the heat because, you're in a room that's 500 degrees. It's hard. It's a lot of work when you're in an actual fire. So you kind of have to go out and get checked off. And the other thing is, when you get done, there's a lot of cleanup, there's a lot of wash down, there's tear down, there's stuff to be done. And when after you've been in that building, you're going to take your jacket off to cool down. And with it sitting on the ground, it can be easier if your department, has a different color gear, easier to find. There's a whole lot of who has my gear games that go on. Because my jacket has my name placard on it. Hey, Sin, the pants don't. But I mean, you shouldn't really be taking the pants off. I have done it, but you shouldn't be if you can avoid it. But yeah, the other Richard, you wore yellow jumpsuits for Wildland. Yeah, and like I said, Tim, it depends. All of our, all the gear colors is dependent. It's preference. Glad there's extra head and hair protection. There is, but even it isn't perfect. I can tell you that one where you saw my helmet being melted. Some of the Nomex actually melted into the skin behind my ear, and if you look at the back of my neck behind my one ear, I have a scar because part of my hood melted into my skin. I had a little burn. I have a couple scars on my wrists and forearms where Richard. So here's the thing. It doesn't matter what color, if you're internal, like in a building or in super heavy, the only thing you're going to be able to see is the reflective. That's why we have the reflective tetrahedron and the reflective tape on it. You'll see the light reflect, but you generally aren't going to be able to see your hand in front of your face a lot of the time. So the color itself doesn't matter. It's the reflective that matters for finding people. Because it is incredibly dark when you are in a fire. Incredibly dark. It's a lot. So, you look for the reflective. But it's just department preference. I can tell you that my department where I had tan in that one picture, they talked about kind of moving to the black gear after that because I was always covered in, you end up covered in blood or stuff. And it can be problematic. Tim, yeah, I know I've got my wildland gear and quals, but even it depends. The color's still dependent on, state and department. It doesn't have specific meaning. I actually, probably about 10 years ago, I volunteered and went out to some of the California wildfires with a bunch of people when they all take volunteers for it. So, and yeah, and what Tim says is true. You have structural gear, and it's different from wildland gear. You also have turnout gear that's meant for technical rescue that's different. And because, you can cut through turnout gear. So depending on what you're doing a technical rescue from, you may have issues. There is some gear that is hazmat specific because you don't want gear that can absorb chemicals. Richard said, I heard as intense fire sucks the oxygen out of the air, people can't scream. Richard, technically you can scream, but you generally don't, because you're going to burn your airway. It's not even that the intense fire sucking the oxygen out. The air is that hot that if you inhale, you will burn your lungs. And then you have airway burns. And airway burns are generally fatal. We have to very, very quickly intubate you before your airway starts to swell. So, Raven, Loki, scars. I have lots and lots of scars from firefighting. You'll see we have cuffs where your hands, and you're supposed to put your thumb through the loop, and then your gloves go over it. Every once in a while, you get lazy, and then your sleeve gets pulled up somehow, and you end up with a burn between your gloves and the edge. But yeah, Richard, you inhale air that's that hot, we're generally going to end up intubating you or having to do a surgical airway because how fast your airway will swell. So hopefully that answers that. But there's a breakdown of the whole triage thing. Like I said, NTMK, it's organized chaos and kind of controlled. It's not nearly as crazy as they try to make it out to be. It's not that heavy. It's not that, it's a pain. It's a lot of work. I'm not taking anything away from anybody, but it's what we train for. We train for mass casualties. We know where people are going. We have smart triage. We have the National Incident Management System. So while it might look like utter and complete chaos, or the news might, oh yeah, Tim, I'm just saying in general, but you can attest, it might look like chaos, and you heard the news reporter, oh my God, and they're carrying this, and it's got to be really hard. No. And if the hill is that steep, honestly, so you saw they weren't really having any issues walking up and down that hill. Walking hills that are that steep, we generally will run a pulley system. If I'm going to be slipping and sliding when I go up the hill, you put people in the Stokes basket, you tie them down, you clip the carabiner on, and the guys up at the top with the pulley usually use something like a Wrap 3 Pull 2, and you pull them up with a pulley system, take them out of the basket, and send the basket back down, and just up and down hills where we're talking, vertical rock faces, or you're on sand and you're slipping and kind of spinning your tires. We have other ways to get people up and down. So, yes, it's awful, but they did what looked like a really good job for the most part. They followed what you're supposed to do. It's just kind of organized chaos. But no, I got a few emails from people and messages from people saying well, why don't I see paramedics with equipment out on those tarps? No, that's because we don't do the things. Papa, it was both. I haven't seen the full thing, and nobody will know totally until the NTSB investigation comes out. It appears that they had the snow clearing machine on the tracks and they collided. And once they collided, it derailed the one track. It derailed the one train because of the collision. Yeah, Papa, it is well organized. You have to be. And we learned that with Katrina. We learned that, after 9/11, you learn that with these big incidents where nobody knows where anybody is. Nobody knows what resources are where, and you don't know where you're going. And, one of the big things is if you're the first person on a scene like that, you become the incident commander until someone that's higher ranking than you comes and relieves you of command. It's always a very organized. Everybody has to be. Yeah, Katie said. Everybody has to be trained in NIMS. We have NIMS 1, 3, 5, and 7. Everybody does. Smart triage. Every department has to do. So, yeah, Katie said we were discussing the derailment. I got a bunch of questions about the scene and the triage situation and how they were running the mass casualty. And I was explaining that, we have a very defined set. Yeah, Mayor Renge, it was the metro in Chicago. They collided with the snow clearing thing that goes on the tracks, and it derailed the car, and there was about 30. Yeah, it was the, yeah, Katie said, I had pulled it up. I pulled up Mike Gravlin's video from Law Talk with Mike, and he was explaining where it was and what hub it was at and all of that stuff. I'm not from the area. I just explained the dumb public safety stuff. Bandit, what happened today? Oh, CTA Metro. I don't know. It was a train in Chicago. I'm not from Chicago. Nope. I'll tell you how the public safety side ran. That's all I can help you with. I can't tell you about the other stuff. So, like I said, tomorrow I'm going to put it up in the morning. Tomorrow I am going to put up the jury selection for the Elijah. Oh, bye, Richard. Have a good day. I will be on tomorrow. I'm going to play the Elijah McLean, the paramedic trial, gavel to gavel. And we're going to cover it. We're going to cover ketamine. We're going to cover kind of some of the distinction. Oh, I said I would get back to that start. So, Caroline, you said in reference to Chauvin, he had someone in custody. They died on his watch, overdose or not. They failed to get medical care when needed for a prisoner. There was medical care there. There was medical care. Was it appropriate? Was it too late? Yeah. This is a similar, not a similar situation, but this is a situation where they're saying, was it a case where police were responsible? Or was it a case that the paramedic is responsible and OD and everybody is pointing their fingers? So we're going to cover the trial because in the trial that went last week for the McLean case, the police blamed DMS. So we're gonna cover that one tomorrow. Croc, I believe it is supposed to start at 9. I am on the Colorado Judicial's page, Colorado Judicial Branch, and let me see if I have a time. Tomorrow is supposed to be, like I said, Adams County. Like I said, I am going to stream it. Adams Division L. I believe it is going at. It'll probably go at 9 a.m. their time, which will be 10 a.m. Pittsburgh time. So I'm going to stream that, and like I said, I'll go through the complaint and about the drugs and stuff during jury selection if it isn't interesting, but otherwise I'm going to have it up. Am I going to look into the Robert Primo Jr. trial? See, Alan, yes, I will look into it. If you have information, just send it to me via email. I am waiting for the court date for the Crumley parents who were charged. And the state went after Ethan Crumley's parents. So it's not the first I've heard because, like I said, the Crumley case, both parents are going to trial for the shooting. So I will look into the Primo Jr. trial. I'm going to do the Crumley parents trial. They have not given a date as of yet. There was the recent Supreme Court ruling that they can still stand trial, and their appeal was denied. So I'll be there tomorrow morning. We'll have that one up. And then, like I said, we will cover some of the complaint. I'll cover the drugs. I'll cover the other stuff, either during jury selection if it's not interesting or during breaks. So we'll be there tomorrow. But other than that, I'm about done for the evening. Unless anybody has any questions or anything they'd like to discuss for about 15 minutes. Or if anyone wants to come say hi. Specifically going for the father who co-signed for his FOID. Yes, see, Ellen, I will look into it and pick it up and see what I can do. I'll look into it. Like I said, I am going to cover the Crumley trial too. Okay, Katie. Yeah, I'm going to cover it, and like I said, I'm going to break down the pro of the National Board of Care. Did they follow and see? There's kind of pretty heavily blamed the medics. So, went from working on an EV to a washing machine. Ooh, doesn't sound like fun, see, Alan. I have to replace the board in my double oven. Tim said it's 11 a.m. Loki. Tim, is that Eastern? What? Tim, what time zone is the 11? And Raven, FOID is the firearms owner identification. So it's the paperwork. Okay, so 11 EST. Thank you, Tim. So I will have it up tomorrow. I will have it up. I generally have my stream up about a half hour before the trial is supposed to start, so we can clear things up and make sure everything's set up and going. But I'll pop up my stream in a few. So like I said, I will look into that Robert Primo case, see, Alan. Yeah. You're good tonight, Patty. Patty, how is the young lady that you were at the hospital with? Is she good? Doing any better? So, coverage will be out tomorrow. Bandit, she did say hi. I'm glad you're good, Patty. Okay, Croc, I'll send it. Well, thank you very much, Bandit. Thank you. Coffee is always much appreciated. Coffee will be very much appreciated when I have to sit through these gavel-to-gavel trials, as everybody can attest. Because Lord knows I will lose my mind making fun of things. And I'm probably going to lose my mind because we're going to misquote the treatment protocols or what those drugs do. I don't know why, Bandit. She just said hi and then she popped back out. Too many acronyms to keep track of. Yeah, Raven, so in public safety, we live off of acronyms. Although technically you're not supposed to, because sometimes there's some confusion between acronyms. She's not well. Oh, I'm sorry, Patty. I'm sorry. Let me know if I can do anything. Yeah, Croc, I will send you so you can be +1 tax squirrel. Yeah, so like I said, Raven, firearms owner identification card. So yes, yeah, Alan, I will look into that for you. But other than that. Hi, Katie. Mostly because you're on your phone. Katie, I know the feeling. I'm lucky I know my own name today. It has been a day. Yes, Papa. You can listen to me yell at people demonizing ketamine and things. And so we have that. We're going to do that trial. Like I said, I'm going to try to find the Crumley thing. I'm going to look into this case see Alan's talking to me about. And then we are... Oh, Raven, you're a vet. Raven, do you want to come up tomorrow and talk about ketamine? You want to talk about ketamine with me? Because if I hear one more person talk about respiratory depression and sub-anesthetic doses, I'm going to throw something at them. Because the whole reason we give ketamine is because, unlike opiates, it doesn't cause respiratory depression. But hey. Oh, what could I say? Okay, Patty. Keep me posted. Yeah. So that's what we're gonna cover. We have a bunch of stuff to cover. We're also gonna cover, like I said, the new Alec Baldwin video and some of the Alec Baldwin things, and the revolver. I took a safety off a revolver, or I pulled a hammer back and didn't pull the trigger on a revolver, and the revolver went boom. We get to go down that rabbit hole again. See, Alan, I saw the first line of that email. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. Oh, at 1911s. Oh, okay, Raven. I thought you meant like veterinarian. I was confused. I was like, if you're a veterinarian, you can come talk ketamine with me. See, Alan, you can be big mad on you. 1911s are pretty. They're pretty to look at. At least I don't have you looking at like Glocks. So, okay, everybody. Well, I am going to sign off and say goodnight. I'm sure I'll see you guys around the YouTubes for a little bit. And then I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night, beasties. Love y'all.